Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. My name is Ralph Aaron Ilaw, but you can call me Ralph. I'm an 11th grade student studying AS level media studies, and this is my creative critical reflection. I will be answering 4 questions for you all, so let's get to it. So, for the first question, how does your product use or challenge conventions, and how does it represent social groups or issues? So, my product is an opening scene titled His Trinity. It's about a boy whose 3 worst fears or traumas turn into real-life entities that haunt him in his own home. If you haven't seen it, I'll include a link in the description. And yeah, you can go check it out if you're interested. The film is meant to be classified as psychological horror, and I was inspired by a YouTube channel called Hi, I'm Mary Mary, which I believe also makes psychological horror content. Again, I'll link their channel in the description below. And the way I made my opening scene is that I edited it with an analog horror type style to it. Although you can't really classify my project as analog horror because it doesn't really have the qualifications it needs to be classified as analog horror, because analog horror is more on using found footage or old footage, and it mainly relies on audio as opposed to visuals, whereas in mine relies on both. So most of the shots are static and there is no music or dialogue in the opening scene. The opening scene is also filmed with rather cheap or low-end equipment, as opposed to some opening scenes out there are filmed with very high-end equipment or very professional equipment. Whereas in my opening scene really relies completely on editing to build atmosphere. It doesn't rely on it completely, but it mostly relies on editing to build atmosphere. The opening scene is meant to represent fears or traumas of a person. So the protagonist is alone and is not coping with his struggles properly. This is shown when he comes home at a very late hour and starts drinking alcohol instead of getting any rest. And it tackles the issue of addiction and trauma and other negative emotions that a mentally ill person may experience. It is also supposed to address anxiety and perhaps even schizophrenia, which is a mental illness where someone starts to hallucinate either visually or auditarily. Alright, for the second question, how does your product engage with audiences and how would it be distributed as a real media text? So the opening scene engages with my audience through vision and sound more than it does through dialogue. So this lets the audience think about what is happening in the opening scene rather than straightforwardly narrating it to them or giving them a scenario or giving them scenarios in which characters talk to each other and yeah, stuff like that. So it gives the audience more time to think for themselves about why and what is happening. So why is this happening and what is happening? It helps them use a little bit more imagination. So the growing intensity in sound and the rise in pace, for example, it helps the audience, helps keep them guessing and wondering, and it helps keep them on their toes, and it builds that anticipation. Yeah. So my opening scene is distributed through the internet, and more specifically on social media platforms such as YouTube being the most common one. It's already there on YouTube. Again, I have a link for it in the description below. And I also wish to distribute it or promote it on other social media sites like maybe Instagram, Twitter, maybe Facebook, maybe even Netflix, but that's probably dreaming a little bit too big. No, that's dreaming way too big actually. So for now, YouTube and the internet is just the easiest way to get it to most people. So my opening scene and my progress are also shared on my AS level media studies portfolio on a website I made with Wix. So if you want to go check that out, if you want to check out my thought process, if you want to check out how I made the opening scene, what equipment I use, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I'll have a link in the description below. And if you click that link, it will lead you to my website, which shows my storyboards. It shows every shot I took. It shows my editing process, what apps I used, and stuff like that. Okay, moving on to the third question. How did your production skills develop throughout this project? Actually, I don't think I even had any production skills until I started studying media. So I knew nothing about camera angles, I knew nothing about shots, I knew nothing about genre, I knew nothing about media terms, and most importantly, continuity. I knew nothing about that, and continuity is very important for like films. So I think my production skills have improved in terms of choosing what shots to include, how creative I can get with my shots, and time management. Time management is very important when it comes to organizing yourself, creating deadlines for yourself to make sure that you get the shots that you want to shoot on time. You're a teacher because deadlines are a thing. So continuity, going back to continuity, was something very challenging to me because at first I paid no attention to it at all. I'd accidentally move things in between shots. So in one shot, this thing would be on this place, but on the next shot, when it should have been there, still it wasn't there anymore. So that's definitely something that was very, very hard to wrap my head around. I also had to reshoot most of my shots whenever I figure I'd change a certain shot, because then the whole opening scene wouldn't make any sense. So like I'd shoot this shot a certain way and at a certain angle, but then if I wanted to reshoot something, I'd have to reshoot other shots, because then the pacing of the story or the pacing of the opening scene, it wouldn't make any sense. Because for example, let's say I'd be shooting in my living room with the lights on. That would be something that I would shoot at first, but then later I want to change it to having the lights off, let's say. So now I have to change any shot that I have of the lights being on, because, well, it just doesn't make any sense if the lights are on and in this scene, but on this scene the lights aren't on. So yeah, continuity really ruined me. It really made me reshoot a lot of shots. So that's definitely something I had to pay a lot of attention to. I actually ended up shooting almost the whole opening scene in one night, just to make sure that I didn't move everything, and just to make sure that the setting stays the way it is, so that everything makes sense. Now, I'm not saying my production skills have become great or maybe even good to some people. I'm pretty sure they still need work. They definitely need some work. And I definitely need to do more research and preparing, because apparently using a low quality phone camera with my editing app, it didn't really do it any justice when I exported it. Apparently there was some exporting problem, so I definitely needed to do more research and preparing. So yeah, I wouldn't say my production skills were there at first or even great. I wouldn't say they became really good, but it was definitely fun. And I would say that if you ask me to film something, I might have some kind of idea on how to do it now because of this project. Alright, so for the fourth and last question, how did you integrate technologies, software, hardware, and online in this project? Right, so my project, or my opening scene, used more software than it used hardware. So for hardware, literally all I used is just a phone and a tripod. That's it. Just a phone and a tripod for production. But I also used a computer for editing. But most of my opening scene, most of what you see is done on an editing app, and it has less to do with expensive equipment and that stuff. So I was going to use a microphone to record dialogue until I decided to not do that, of course, because I just decided not to. It just felt right. So really the only two main things I used to shoot scene is just my phone camera and a tripod. Sometimes I didn't even use the tripod. So for the software, my main video editing application of choice was Shotcut. Now I know for most people they don't even know what Shotcut is. It's because I don't think it's that popular. I don't even think it's that popular. But it is a very good free editing software with no watermarks or anything. So I know not a lot of people use this app, but again, it's free, and I've been using it for the past maybe 5 years. So I really thought that alright, I'm gonna use this editing app because I'm used to how it works, I'm used to the interface, and I'm just used to it. It's very convenient to me. So it also does all I needed to do. So I don't need any other app that I need to pay for just to do this opening scene. So Shotcut worked really great for me. If you're interested in it, I'll have a link down in the description below. Okay, so for the sound and filters, so every sound and every video filter that you see me using in my opening scene, I took it from YouTube. But don't worry, I have a playlist in my AS Level Media portfolio. I have a link there that gives it takes you to YouTube, and it takes you to a playlist with everything that I've used, everything that I've taken from YouTube. So it's just making sure that it's just letting my audience know that, hey, I didn't make everything. I'm giving credit to these creators for making all of the sound effects and for making all of the video effects. So yeah, I used a MP3, or I used a YouTube to MP3 and MP4 converter online. I'm not sure if this is legal or not, but it's there. The website exists. There's countless websites on it. So basically all I had to do was get the link of a YouTube video that I wanted, and I paste it in the website, and it just give it to me for download. So it's very convenient. I'm pretty sure it's legal. Because it's there, right? Like, it's been there for so long. So if you want to use it, I'll have a link down in the description below. But I mean, I don't think there's any issue with using this, as long as you make sure that the source is reliable, as long as you're not stealing from other people. In my opinion, as long as the videos that you use are like copyright free, I'm pretty sure it's fine. All of the sound effects and video effects that I used in my project are either copyright free or for like creators, or I credited them properly, which is putting their videos in a playlist for other people to see that, oh, this sound effect is owned by this person, this video effect is owned by this person. So yeah, most of my opening scene was really just software more than it was hardware. And in terms of online, how I used online for this project, really all I did was, in terms of online, all I did was make a portfolio on it. I made a website on it. I made a website that talks about, my first plans, all of my concepts, my storyboards, how I thought it was gonna go, what I changed during the opening scene, how I thought about the opening scene. And yeah, that's how I used software, hardware, and online on this project. I also used Google Drives to keep my work, and there is also a Google Drive link in my portfolio or on my website. So if you're interested on seeing every single shot I took, even the ones that I didn't use on my opening scene, they're all there on my website. So yep, that's how I used software, hardware, and online on this project. And that's all 4 questions answered. Thanks so much for listening to my creative critical reflection, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.